Hello and welcome to the show. And today I'm co-hosting with Ebony Finley, and we are going to discuss a very interesting episode today where we're going to split the discussion on digital nomads. And I'm James. I'm the host of the Winging It Travel podcast. Been hosting that since 2021 during COVID, and I've been traveling and doing the work visas since 2013. So I've worked in Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. Finally settled a little bit in Canada with the PR, and I've been traveling pretty much extensively since then. Last year was a year trip. And the aim of my podcast is to inspire people like you who are watching and listening to get out there, travel the world, maybe work somewhere different, see different cultures, and be inspired. So I'm now going to hand it over to Ebony.
Thank you so much, James. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for accepting this invitation to co-host. My name is Ebony. I've been a digital nomad since 2017. I'm the founder of Nomad Generation, which is a travel show that generated over 3 million views. If you guys want to check it out, it's on my YouTube channel, but it's in French. So if I stumble on words, please bear with me. I am actually French. The mission of the show is to empower more people to find the tools and resources to travel the world more freely. I'm also a producer, a host, a creator. You'll be seeing a lot of shows coming out, and I was actually a participant on Canada's Next Top Model and The Amazing Race Canada, and that's what got me into film and television and wanting to now make my own, I guess, YouTube channel. And today, especially with you.
How exciting.
Yes. So, yeah, today we decided that we would co-host this special episode about destinations that we think could or could not be for digital nomads. So we'll be discussing 6 destinations, including Costa Rica, Colombia, Guatemala, Thailand, Vietnam, and Bolivia. And we'll be giving you guys our honest reviews and opinions about whether this is a good digital nomad destination hub or not, and why.
Yeah, it's interesting because I am coming from the lens of I've not really done digital nomading at all. I've done a little bit of it, but not for an extended period of time. So from my perspective, for my 3 countries, I'm going to give what it is like to travel there. And in terms of different facets of digital nomad, like, what's the internet like? What's the co-living spaces like? And give you an idea what it could be like for you, but also for me in the future, because obviously I think it's the aim in the next couple of years to really go out there and try and achieve that. So I'm really excited. We've got some awesome countries, some awesome stats and information for people to listen to. And I'm hoping it will inspire people to get out there and be one like you.
Yes, or be more careful about choosing their destination.
Yeah.
The things I wish I knew before some of these destinations.
That's amazing, because I'm going to probably ask you some questions, right, about why is that experience bad, or why is that really good, or why you say yes or no. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you're going to say and how it goes.
Yeah, same for yours as well. And I think that we should get started with a destination that I personally get a lot of questions about,
Okay.
which is Costa Rica. Okay, this destination is actually one of my favorite destinations in the world. So I'm starting strong here because I have been to Costa Rica 11 times. So I am talking from experience. Let me
Yes, you
tell
are.
you. But I had never experienced Costa Rica as a digital nomad. I had always been there as a traveler. So I really want people to be aware of Costa Rica, like the difference between going there as a tourist, as a traveler, having fun, you're not working, versus like having a laptop and having to cook your meals,
Yes.
all the digital nomad stuff. So as you mentioned, I think it's kind of good to give a rating, but like this is my personal opinion. Anyone has a different experience. I'm really going to invite you guys to like write it down in the comment and share what was your experience over there. But this is really based on my experience. So I'm going to start with the lifestyle in Costa Rica, which, no surprises, super laid back. This is like the slow living destination. It's yogi, surf, health junkies, kind of hobo. No, not hobo. I mean boho. Not hobo. Not hobo at all. Kind of
Outtakes.
boho chic. It's definitely not a party destination. I mean,
Okay.
there are party cities. I'm going to say a Tamarindo, which the locals call Tamagringo. If you want to go
Okay. There you
and
go.
party, you go there. It's very Americanized. And Santa Teresa, down on the West Coast in the South, has really changed and evolved. And there's a lot of good parties there, but people don't go there to party specifically. I know that personally, when I go to Costa Rica, it is because I am looking for a step back from like the buzz of the city and like everything being so stressful here in North America. And so I give the lifestyle an 8 out of 10. But this is also because I'm a surfer, be- because I'm a yogi, because I love to eat healthy and do nothing. So like if you're someone that's somewhat looking for like the super, diverse with activities and all of that, I think you might be disappointed with the lifestyle. And for digital nomads, it's not buzzing yet. Like when we'll come to other destinations, but when a place is a hub, you can tell right away. Like there's nomads meetups, there's gatherings, there's like all these activities to ensure that you're going to meet other digital nomads. And this was like not our experience in Costa Rica whatsoever.
Wow. That surprises me.
Yeah. And it went to the point where, so by the way, this last time we stayed there for 3 months, we did east to west. We did Puerto Viejo, Limon on the east coast, on the west coast. We did Samara, and as I mentioned, I've been to Tamarindo and Santa Teresa and Nosara. We did the central part with Arenal and La Fortuna and everything, and we did not make any long-lasting friends. Like that is insane to me. Every time that I travel, like meeting other nomads is never an issue. But in Costa Rica, that was really hard. So a low rating for that. I give it a 7 out of 10. But yeah, the ability to make friends is really hard. And I would recommend if you're going to Costa Rica as a digital nomad, really hang out in like Selena and hostels. But even the hostels, everyone is very like, I'm here for a long time. I'm here for a short time. Not, you know what I mean? Like they're here for 2 or 3 days.
Very
It's like
transient.
really hard
Mm,
to make friends.
I was going to ask, like, why do you think that is? But maybe because I think you're coming to it, maybe the cost, but maybe people can't, if you're not working and doing digital nomading there, maybe you can't afford to stay that long. So
For sure.
it may people just going off doing their hikes, their yoga, whatever, and then they're off 2, 3, 4 days
Exactly. And
later.
it's a big country. There's a lot to see. So I feel like people who are there just to travel are like really quickly like, okay, I'm going to spend 2 days in La Fortuna and like 1 day in Tamarindo and like move super fast. So they're not really looking to make friends. They already have friends.
Mm.
Yeah, it's really hard. And as you mentioned, this brings to the cost of living. But I'm going to keep that one last because I feel like that's the one that gets the most questions. And I have to justify the cost of living with a couple of things. So I want to justify the cost of living with security. I don't know how much you've heard of like Latin America security.
Yeah.
There's a lot of countries that are really sketchy. Personally, if I compare, I don't know if you agree or disagree with that, but like safety wise, LATAM versus Asia, my God, like I don't even feel like there's a battle. It's like Asia all the way. Like you're so safe in Asia, whereas Latin America has a lot of sketchy places. Well, just a lot of sketchy places.
I sort of jokingly call it lawless a little bit. I don't mean it as like a bit of how can I say? I don't mean to offend anyone, but I just think some places I've been to, and I'm going to come to it in some of my selections as well, where it can get very sketchy. And I think if something happens, there's not much anyone's going to know about it. I think it's going to be pretty,
100%.
yeah,
A
it's a little bit
100%. I
lawless.
think you can buy your way out of a lot of
Sure.
situations.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, yeah. Like in Mexico, I think you want to have cash on you at all times because the police.
Hmm.
Anyways, we're not talking about Mexico,
No.
but I think anyone that's a bit travel will understand. And Costa Rica is by far the safest destination in my eyes in Latin America. As a woman, as a woman of color, I've traveled there solo. I've traveled there with only girlfriends. I've walked alone at night. I got pissed drunk. in Tamarindo, you would not imagine. Like, I've done it all, and I've literally never encountered any single issue on the West Coast. And this is where it's really important. So, like, the West Coast of Costa Rica is a solid 10 out of 10. For the first time on this trip, me and my partner wanted to experience the Costa Rica nomadic hub, which is Puerto Viejo. And that's on the East Coast.
Okay.
And that was the worst experience of our whole entire trip. Our Airbnb ended up being in a full-blown drug cartel. Yeah, and the reviews like did not mention that whatsoever. And I know everyone could be like, come on, like, how did you not read that on the reviews? There was a couple of mentions here and there, very subtle, but nothing like you will have to walk through like 10 drug dealers every day to access the beach, to access the grocery store, like anything. It was really bad. And we rented our Airbnb for like 5 weeks because when you're a digital nomad, you're not like doing 2 or 3 days, right? You're like, you want to get the best possible deal, especially for a country that's on the pricier side, like Costa Rica. So renting longer will give you better deals. So we rented for 5 weeks. And yeah, we literally ended up having to leave early, costing us thousands of dollars because we would get recognized by these gang members. Like every day they would see us. And turns out we went out on a Saturday night and they shot people. And we were just like, okay, like they have guns. Like it was just like, no, there's no amount of money that will like make me put my life at risk like that. Like not that I felt targeted, but it just, no.
Mm.
And so we ran off to Panama and that's that. So yeah, the East Coast, I definitely not recommend. I don't recommend. It's Jamaica meets Costa Rica. It's a really weird vibe. I don't get why it's a hub. Super overpriced, not safe.
It's interesting that.
So yeah, so I'm really debating what score to give Costa Rica for safety, but all I can say is like if you stick to the West Coast, you will get the pura vida and stay away from Puerto Viejo. Like that's my personal go.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that brings us to the last, cost of living. So again, if we are on the west side, I think that it's semi-justified. Like it is definitely overpriced. This is not a budget-friendly destination. If you are the budget backpacker that's like scratching your pennies, you're gonna have a really rough time in Costa Rica. A coffee is like $8 USD. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you would think that you would get away with cheaper prices like Nicaragua or Guatemala or something like that. Like, it's not gonna happen. A good restaurant is like easy 150 USD. Everything's in USD. So for us Canadians, like, we are getting done.
Shafted.
And we were paying close to 2,200 USD per month to live in a box. And like literally like
that's crazy.
The bathroom, the kitchen in like next to the bed. Just
that's more expensive than Vancouver rents.
Yes. And there's a couple of things I wish I knew before going to Costa Rica. And I did a video about that on the YouTube. So I'm gonna ask people to go check that out.
Check that
out. Because I give a lot of helpful tips there, and there are ways to make it cheaper.
Nonetheless.
Okay, nonetheless, this is a very expensive destination, and I'm gonna rate that a 5 out of 10. Because, like, honestly, a surfboard for an hour is 9 USD. A surfboard, like, Are you kidding me? When I used to go there 10 years ago, it was like $50 a week. A car, like renting a car, not affordable. An ATV, not affordable. Like, it's just crazy. So for digital nomads, you really have to budget that a lot. A good way to save is doing your groceries and cooking yourself. So I will say that like food, I give a really good rating. Compared to other destinations in Latin America, the convenience stores are actually convenient. Like there's a lot of them. You'll find fresh fruit, veggies, meats, all of that. It's expensive. Same price as in Canada, I'm going to say. It's like same price as here, but you'll save a lot of money if you cook your own meals. And I think I'm forgetting one last thing. The internet. The internet sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're a digital nomad and you need to be connected 24/7, so it's not as bad as people say. When you say, like, I'm going to Costa Rica as a digital nomad, everyone's like, oh my God, like the internet. If you stick to places where there's a Selena or like a co-working space, like in Samara, there was like a co-working space, they will have generators and it's going to be okay. But if you're just relying on like your Airbnb, we experienced 2 major power outages that lasted like the whole entire day, like no internet. And then I'm going to say 2 to 3 times a week, the internet would cut from anywhere from like 30 minutes to like 2 hours.
Okay.
So it can be stressful. If you're someone that needs to be like really like constantly connected, you want to stick to Selena. And I'm also going to rate the internet kind of low. Like if you're a digital nomad. If you're traveling, it doesn't matter. But as a nomad, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I've got some questions actually. Just very short reflection questions.
Yeah.
I think Costa Rica, for my podcast, I've been speaking to travelers who have traveled there. I think it's well known to be expensive. So I'm not surprised by your comments about the expense. I am surprised of the security situation. I didn't expect to hear that. And also, my question for internet, if you're a digital nomad, what about the eSIM potential options? Can you get an eSIM as a backup and maybe have loads of internet available on that? Is there 5G or
Yeah.
is that way good or not?
We did try an eSIM and honestly, it was not reliable. The only other thing that I can say is a VPN, which we didn't like get, but it's to be tested. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so shall we move on to my first one?
Yeah. Can't wait to hear.
Okay, we're going to Asia, as mentioned there previously. So we're going to Thailand, which may seem a bit cliche for people who listen or watching because it's been written about, talked about, videoed about extensively. But as a digital nomad hub, I can't think of many places better in Asia due to a number of things. So based on my travels there, I probably spent in total maybe 2 to 3 months in Thailand, traveling at various times. And maybe the longest stint was a month in one go and dipped in and out. In terms of being available to do different activities, amazing. I'm sure you're aware of all different things you can do. So lots of beaches to cities to islands, loads of great tours like cooking classes or market tours, easy to navigate on your own. A lot of places in Thailand have English written on the signs, and even a lot of Thais now speak English. But I would advise learning a bit of Thai if you can. Bit hard, but it goes a long way. Loads of hostels. So the hostel game in Thailand is big. I think we all know there is a big hostel community in terms of backpackers and as even now co-living and co-working spaces. I think one I know, if I went to Bangkok tomorrow, I'd be staying at Lub D in CM Square, formerly known as a party hostel, but there's also got a kind of separate part of it now, which is for digital nomads co-living. So they're really modernized. And so that's a tip for someone. And also the various islands. I mean, you can choose whatever you want. The quietest island I think that'd be pretty cool to be based is Koh Lanta, but I'm not sure on the internet situation there because obviously I didn't kind of go there checking it out for internet. But in terms of an island where it's not party based, it's easy to get around by road, you can rent a scooter out, and the prices, they seem pretty reasonable. If you're looking for maybe a bit more of a hub, then obviously you've got the classic Koh Tao, Koh Phangan, Koh Phi Phi, but these are high places. Out of those three, Koh Tao is probably your most chilled one. It's quite small, so easy to get to by boat from Surat Thani, but not many options when I last went there. But it's been quite a while, so maybe there's more options now and easy access to other islands on the east side. Koh Phi Phi, I would, if you're looking to maybe do a bit of work and some partying, that's probably the best place to go. Maybe an underrated place, and this might sound weird, is Koh Phangan outside of the full moon party. I think it's pretty chill. I don't think anything goes on. If you can avoid the weeks where it's the pre-parties, so maybe like 2 weeks a month, it might be pretty chill there. But obviously, you gotta get all the influx of tourists coming. Yeah, I don't know. That's what people told me. Like they go there to chill out on a non-full moon weeks, which is interesting. And if you want to have a bit of more of a serene experience, maybe a bit like Costa Rica, where a bit of yoga, a bit of chilling out, then North Thailand is your place. Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai are two places that people base themselves, very chilled. are very small and lots of great hostels there too. I mentioned working spaces, so I mentioned Lubdi, but I think now Thailand is booming with so many options. So I don't have any specifics, but I think a bit of research will find you some decent co-working hostels, as well as good hostels to stay in general. And in terms of security, super safe. But then this is from a white male who speaks English, so very different vibe to Ebony here. But
I've been to Thailand.
yeah,
I felt very, very,
okay,
very safe. Yeah.
there you go. So there's two recommendations for you. But Thailand, when I first went in 2013, yeah, a bit raw. But I think in 2024, very westernized, big security, and not as many scams anymore because they've just kind of upgraded their tech. So an example would be you don't need to get a rickshaw anymore. You can just get an Uber. And it sounds pretty bad, but if you're looking for a safety and a price aspect, I think that's a good way to get about. And I've never really had any serious scams. Had little ones, but like not big ones. I don't know if you had any different experiences to that.
Me personally, no. I know that my brother went there and but my brother's not a traveler. So
Okay.
he was traumatized when people realized that like he was a tourist and they would charge like 50 cents more. He was like, everyone is ripping me. And I'm like,
That used
well,
to be me.
come on. I'm like, welcome to traveling. Like, if you look like a rich foreigner, of course they're gonna upsell you. Like, it's part of the game. Like, I don't know. I feel like as nomads, we have to be aware of these things. We
Mm.
are part of the problem with gentrification. We can also be part of the solution. Like, it's okay to give $2 more, like whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. But when you're first there, for the first time ever, maybe it's different now because of phones, but when I went, it was before smartphones. So you really
Mhm.
don't know what the base price is. So
Yeah.
you're going to
I
hear
know.
10 different prices at 10 different
Yeah.
times. I know it's different now, so I think you can get a good base of an idea.
Yeah.
Like a funny story is we were supposed to get taken to the public boat on the river in Bangkok, but they took us to a different part of the river and tried to sell us a private boat, but no phone, no map, no idea where we are. So we jumped out, said, no, we don't want a private boat. We just want the public boat, and we had to find a way back. But it's fine. You get there in the end.
You survived,
Yeah,
clearly.
yeah, yeah. The only thing I'd say about security, I don't know if you've heard this, maybe in Copenhagen during full moon, just be a little bit aware. I don't know if people have read the stories. God, even before I went in 2013, someone got shot on the beach there. I
Mm.
think on New Year's Eve, I think there's a slight drug problem on that island when tourists arrive, and you just need to be a bit more aware. I haven't heard too much recently, but that is something to keep an eye on.
I have a question for
Yeah.
you. And it's kind of a debate. I'm also asking the viewers their opinion on this and the listeners. I've been to Thailand. It was a really long time ago. And I was there when I was on the Amazing Race Canada. So I was definitely not a digital nomad. I was a tourist passing by, actually racing.
Okay. Yeah.
But we still had 3 off days. And then we got to visit like as tourists and everything. Okay. I know this is gonna like maybe I don't know how this is gonna resonate, but I felt like Thailand is a cheap version of Bali. It's like the backpacker destination and Bali is the digital nomad destination. Like Thailand is the destination for the person who's like looking for the $12 hostel, looking for the $1 beer, looking, for the deals and the this and the that. And then you have Bali, where it's like people are happy to pay $130 for the gym membership per month, right? Because they're digital
I see.
nomads and they're living there. So I've never went back. I'm really curious to do so. We are planning to travel back to Thailand. But what is your opinion on that? Do you think that Thailand may be more of a backpacker than digital nomad destination?
Yes. And the reason I think that is you're totally right. Bali takes that title in Southeast Asia, and that's why I don't like Bali that much. And that's controversial.
Oh, okay.
But I feel like because it is like that, Thailand, I think you can get away from the constant gentrification. So there's going to be a little bit, of course, if you base yourself in Bangkok or whatever, or some of the popular islands. But as long as I think the internet is great in Thailand's coming to that, the internet is great. So I think you can base yourself not too involved in that community if you don't need to be. It all depends if you're looking for friends or a community to be with or how long you're staying there for. But I think the opportunity to be a digital nomad in Thailand is pretty good. And I
Sure.
think um, one of the cases I've seen, I think I've even talked to someone about this on the podcast, where Thailand doesn't have any residency rules in terms of rent. So you can go to Bangkok and rent an apartment for 6-12 months. You just need to prove that basically you can pay it. And obviously, if you've got a tourist visa, you're there for 6 months, you need to come out and back in again, but no rules. So you can get a really nice apartment in Bangkok for $600 to $700 a month, and it's got all the amenities that you need. So if that is Bangkok and it's probably the most expensive in Thailand, what does that mean for the rest? I mean, as a budget, cost of living was next for me. Amazing. I think you're going to potentially find some good deals. So I'm keen to see how you find it.
Yeah.
My worry with Bali is that it's gone too far the other way now, where is it even now not that cheap anymore? I don't know.
It's not. Well, I mean, I haven't been in a long time, but I work for anyone listening right now. I have a work from anywhere job. I work with Safety Wing, a lot of ambassadors from around the world, and I have the amazing opportunity to review their awesome videos. So I get a lot of Bali videos, and yeah, it's really not that cheap anymore. That's the issue. Like when I'm saying $135 for a gym membership, I'm not just throwing that number out like
Yeah,
that.
that's crazy.
That is the latest. Like one of the creators that I work with is there, and that's like in their video how much they're paying for a gym membership. And yes, it's a really nice gym. It has like a tennis court, the pool, the cold plunge, like very modern, amazing. But $5 a month? Are you kidding me? I pay that per year for my gym here. Like that's a lot of money, I
And
think.
and if you get an apartment in Bangkok, for example, that will come with a gym. So that saves you that
Yeah.
anyway. So I think to finish on Thailand, for me, the cost of living is amazing for the US dollar. You can still get cheap food. If you're willing to eat street food in terms of the markets, they don't change in price. Even in touristy areas, the side streets with the restaurants are still cheap. So cost of living is great. I think public transport is so cheap. The boat in Bangkok, for example, or if you rent a moped out for a week in Koh Lanta or Koh Phi Phi, whatever, super cheap. And I just think if you're looking to maybe reduce some costs in Southeast Asia, but for somewhere that's got all the amenities, facilities, infrastructure, I think Thailand's a great shout.
Yeah.
I would rate it very highly. I think I would give that like 8 or 9 out of 10. But with a caveat being, I've never really tried to be a digital nomad there, and I'm keen to see if you go there, if that is going to be a good place to go away from the backpacker vibe, if you're going to be like a working nomad there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, we have someone in our team that's based in Chiang Mai full time, and I know he's part of like a digital nomad community. There's just a couple of question marks like food. Is it like Bali? Like, is it one of these places where it's actually cheaper to eat out every day and like doing your groceries is like kind of a hassle versus just ordering food every day? Like, it's just little questions like that I wonder. But I know for a fact that internet, like you mentioned, Christine, cost of living, like if you want to save money, I think literally like when we're ready to save money, we're gonna rent our condo, go to Asia. Like, are you kidding me? Like, this is the dream, right? You want to
I know.
earn
Yeah.
an American, Canadian, or American salary and go work in Asia. Like, that's when you're winning at life. Kind of like.
I'll tell you right now, if I tomorrow had the opportunity to go and I'm thinking, oh, where's the first place to go? It'll be Thailand.
Right.
Straight off the bat, just to test it out and see, because I'm convinced it's almost the perfect place. Because also, just to finish, if you are in need to escape, I guess, Asian culture, for me, Thailand's like going home a little bit. They've got so much westernized stuff there. You can go and get poached eggs on toast with avocado. That is available if you need. So it's not like it's back in the 90s where it's full on raw. This is a country that's so modern and almost westernized in certain parts that you can go back to home to get that kick. So
I love that hope for you is eggs and toast.
Poached eggs on toast with avocado, yeah. Baked beans, you can get baked beans in Bangkok as well. So it's all there.
Oh, gosh. Okay, so I think fair to say Thailand, definitely a destination that you would rate really highly and you would be keen to experience digital nomad life.
100%. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it would be interesting to do this. I'm thinking like a year from now, like with new destinations, because I'm like, I wonder what's Thailand to the Philippines. That's on my list. But then
Philippines,
Philippines is
yeah.
also a destination where I'm like, is it cool to travel, but not cool as a digital nomad? Watch this space. We'll see.
Oh, there you go.
Maybe we'll do another one of these in a year.
Yeah, it'll be
But
fun.
I'm going to bring you guys back now to this side of the world, Colombia, a destination where I've spent a month. I ended up having an amazing sponsorship, an amazing opportunity to visit Colombia. I was never on my bucket list or anything like that. But I heard that Medellin, I'm not sure if I say it right. I was there for a month and we'll just blaming on the French, is a hub and I need to see it and I need to experience it for myself. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let's go. Let's do it. So Colombia is a tricky one, right? So Costa
Hmm.
Rica overall, think like a maybe like a 7 out of 10 overall. Colombia, hard because I feel like it's extremes, right? So again, I'm going to go through my little points. I'm going to speak about specifically Medellin because that's where I've been and it's a nomad hub. Like that is 100% a hub. It's recognized as a hub. And I could easily see why. Like there is so much to do. I felt like this was a crossover with like Latin America meets New York. It's like the city that never sleeps. There's
Wow.
always a party. It doesn't matter what day of the week. There is always a party. There's always an event. There is more nomad gatherings that you could ever attend, like in a day. It's insane the amount of things that you can do. The only thing I felt it was missing, honestly, was like a beach. You put a beach in there and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, this place is perfect. Because
Yeah.
like, honestly, ability to make friends, 20 out of 10. Most of the activities are free. I just couldn't believe it. So like there's the language exchange, which is like 2 or 3 times a week. And it's Colombians and people from like everywhere. You get a free drink, like, and then you get to learn Spanish and you can sit at different tables. You can learn German. You could host. I was a host once, like for French. It's just really cool. Then some of the events are followed by free salsa dancing class,
Get me
which
there.
we did almost every week. Are you
Get me there.
kidding me? My British little boyfriend was like, oh my God, like I'm moving my hips. It was amazing. There's bachata, salsa, merengue, free. Again, like what? If you don't have a partner, they match you up. Like it's amazing. The vibes are immaculate. Honestly, I met
Wow.
so many friends that are still my friends today. That to me is the true definition of like, okay, I made friends when I'm traveling is when
Mm.
you're like a year later, you're still friends. You're still like, where are you? Let's meet up. Like to me, that's the digital nomad community. And I definitely felt that in Medellin. The WhatsApp groups are like buzzing. I've never experienced anything else like that. I tried the Costa Rica ones. I would get like 2 likes and 1 comment. In Medellin, I was like, hey, I'm new. I'm here for a month. Anyone want to go for a coffee? Schedule booked. Booked for the month. Like, couldn't, it was
What a
amazing. It was,
place.
huh?
What a place. I'm
I
like,
know.
just
I
get me
know.
there
There's
now.
street tours, bike tours,
Yeah.
night tours, these local integrations, cultural tours, hiking, nature fall. Okay. Seriously, I get it. I get why it's a
Okay.
hub. The lifestyle is 10 out of 10. Making friends is a 20 out of 10. The food, the food is. So we were there for a month and I really wanted to cook. And turned out it's one of these places for us, anyways, that was kind of like Bali. It was just like the hassle of cooking and
Mm.
getting everything was just more work than just eating out. We had a budget of $50 per day. And that was enough, but we thought we could make it as a couple. I would say $50 a day per person.
Okay.
You'll have like breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, drink, everything, which in my opinion is like, I mean, it's really good. Like
Mm.
here, I get $60 sushi and I don't even have a drink. So, so yeah, the food
God.
was good. Cost of living, fair. It's definitely getting more expensive. It
Mm.
is a hub. It is renowned. There's a lot of people investing. We met so many nomads that were like, this is becoming my base, like surprisingly, and that were like purchasing So the prices are definitely going up, but I think that like anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500, you'll be fine and you'll have a maid like in your apartment. Like you'll be living well. I don't know the prices elsewhere, but me here in Quebec, I'm paying that like 1,500 and like I don't have a maid. And this is my mortgage. Like this is an expensive house. So yeah, it's really fair. Again, if you're on Euro, Canadian, USD, I think it's really like fine. Where Colombia lost a lot of its feathers for me, and I'm sure you can see this coming, but it's security. I
Mm.
mean, just did not feel safe during the day. Okay, but as soon as the sun sets, like just not a vibe for me and my partner as well. So I'm thinking like, oh, maybe it's just me because I'm a girl, but no, like we did not feel safe at all. You have to Uber everywhere. You cannot like just walk from one neighborhood to another. You have to Uber, but then Ubers are illegal. So it's like, yeah, Ubers are actually not legal in Medellin, which is really weird. And the police can stop you and question you, and then you have to act like this person is like your friend and not a Uber, but you have to take a Uber for your safety. Like that was really sketchy.
So how do you book it then if it's not legal?
It's not illegal, but
So
it's
so you,
not
so you can go on the
legal.
app and then
Book
okay, right,
it, but
yeah,
the police can stop you and question
got
you,
it,
and you can get fined.
yeah,
So really weird.
weird.
Lots of prostitution. Like
Mm.
I'm walking with my boyfriend and prostitutes will call my boyfriend. Really hardcore, like surprisingly. And you get it in Asia, you get it like almost everywhere, like it's fine, but usually like when you're a couple, like they will not they'll leave you alone. But in Colombia, they're like no shame. They're like, yeah, pretty aggressive. If you're sensitive to gentrification, it's hardcore. Like we like like you would walk over people in the street, like they're literally like laying on the streets, like the kids are there, and like I have it on tape, like I have someone like walking over them, like yeah. So all of that, just for me, that was a no-go. I will say, however, that Colombia is one of the very few places that I've traveled to personally where Black beauty is celebrated. Like
Mm.
the standards of beauty are actually Black women. So that was really refreshing. All the graffitis, all the painting, all the arts on the shirts and like the art gallery, it's Black women. So that was like chef kiss. Oh my God, I feel so beautiful. And it was really nice. I felt really accepted. There's a huge BIPOC community in Medellin. So for anyone that's like a BIPOC traveler wondering if this is a safe destination in those regards, yes. However, as a female solo, I would have never gone there on my own. Like never. I would go to Costa Rica with my eyes closed tomorrow morning by myself. I would not go to Medellin alone.
Okay, I've got a question
Yeah.
for security. Do you think Colombia is getting better? So we know of the past, and we know Medellin, of course, with Escobar, etc. And obviously, we probably need to give them a bit of a chance because they are still coming out of that phase, I guess, a little bit.
Mm,
And I've had a few people come on the podcast say Medellin is one of their favorite places in South America as a whole. So
mm.
I'm just thinking, do you think it'll get better in the next 5, 10 years?
I think it's 100% is already. I'm gonna have a lot of YouTubes coming up on this. I visited Comuna 13, which was the highlight of my trip. For anyone who doesn't know, Comuna 13 is the third biggest favela in the world. And it was one of the most criminalized neighborhood in the world. And they've done a 180. They've chose art as a form of expression to get out of poverty and violence. It's absolutely beautiful. Colombians have to be some of the most resilient people I have ever met. The locals are really, really nice. And yes, it's definitely getting safer. But another video that you'll see is that I went out on the streets and I interviewed, I'm going to say like about 100 people, asking them if they felt safe, right? So because I didn't want this to be only like my opinion, and it's really split. It's really 50-50. I'll have people that were like, yes, it's really safe. And then I'm like, cool. Did you ever get robbed? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, did you experience violence? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, yes. And I'm like, do you want to go back on your answer that it's safe? And they're like, no, it's safe. But but you just you got robbed. So a lot of mixed opinions, like really, really mixed opinions. I think, again, this is my personal, if you stay in Laureles and El Poblado, you're going to be fine. Outside of that, I can't say I would recommend. Can't say I would recommend for a digital nomad. I would recommend for a traveler for a day trip. But I don't think if you're a digital nomad that like you should rent your Airbnb outside of these specific locations as of now.
Okay. I wonder if Bogota or Cartagena, wonder if they're any better or any safer. I'd imagine Bogota in theory would be, but I have no idea.
No, I can't speak to that regards because like I haven't been, so I don't want to talk about places where I haven't been. But what I've heard from people, it's that it's pretty much the same. But I agree with you. I think that like 10 years from now, we'll be at a completely different place. But right now, lost some points there for security. But wait, I forgot another thing. I keep forgetting internet. Internet, 40 out of 10. I've better internet than here. Are you kidding me? Internet in Medellin is everywhere. So I don't even recommend co-working like spaces because the cafes are made for digital nomads. I could not believe it. I made friends in cafes. Like you just sit there and you'll be surrounded by like 20 digital nomads and you'll end up talking over coffee and work. Like it's amazing. Honestly, I cannot stress enough the ability to make friends and how amazing the digital nomad community is. So yeah, high points for everything except security.
Okay, fair enough. I maybe expected that when I saw Colombia, too fair. I didn't want to accept it because you do hear it's getting better, but obviously you have got to take it for face value. What is it like now? And it's good to hear not just the nice stuff that people will talk about, right? You need to hear the real stuff. Yeah.
But that's my opinion. I had so many people there that like, hey, there's like so many neighborhoods in New York that are 10 times worse. And they're right. And there are neighborhoods in the States or in even London, you know, that are worse. So I have to agree with that. It's just a feeling, I guess. I wouldn't go back right now because I like to be able to know that I can walk at night and be safe and things like that. But there's a lot of people that felt safe and that would say that like I'm completely out of it.
Yeah, it's interesting because to finish on the safety aspect, I normally say in the podcast, controversially, that I think London is one of the most unsafe places I've been and lived in, and that's because I got mugged. I've seen some stuff on nights out I just don't want to see again. So I'm like, do you know what? That is not a place for me. But people be like, oh, that can't be worse than Medellin. But I'm like, do you know what? I've got this weird and almost slightly dangerous point of view where I just go, oh, it can't be as bad as London. So I go in with a bit of a sort of gung-ho approach, like, oh, it can't be as bad. And that's probably bad until something happens, right? So
I want to ask what happened. We need to make a little, I just want to snip it. Like, what happened?
In terms of the mugging, okay, so this is in an area of London called Acton. I don't know if people know this. It's just by Shepherd's Bush. And this was about midnight. And I met someone in central London, come back to that area, drop my stuff off, and I was going out to a party in Acton. I was walking along the high street. This is a street that's main. It's Uxbridge Road. So the Uxbridge Road goes from Hyde Park all the way west to Heathrow. Loads of buses, loads of lights, everything you can imagine. Walking past, there's a Tesco's there just by East Acton. I think there's an ATM there now, but it wasn't there at the time. And I just walked past the bus shelter, and two guys just sort of like got in front of me. And I was so innocent at the time. I was like, oh, I'll move out the way. But as soon as I moved out the way, they moved in my way. And then the biggest guy just sort of pushed me against the wall. And then the other guy was like, he actually said to me, this is a mugging. I was like, is it? He said, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. And he said, I want you to be quiet. I don't want you to shout anything. We've got a knife. And he sort of like poked something in my chest from his coat. I was like, right, okay. And he says, I want everything you've got. I said, oh, you can have it because I got nothing. And I literally had nothing. I had a pay-as-you-go phone, had no cash. All I had was a few, like a travel card, a few debit cards, and my keys. And he realized this, probably a little bit devastated. And he asked for the pin of my debit card. So I made a pin up on the spot. And then he asked me again what it was. I'm like, oh shit, I don't remember. So I gave a different pin number to what I said first. And he just accepted it and jumped on the bus and went off. That was it. But he left my keys. So he took my phone, took my wallet, left my keys. So I ran back home. Yeah, there you go.
My goodness, can I pick up my mouth from the floor? You sound so chill. You're just
Oh,
like
I wasn't
like
at the
just
time.
thinking, and you're like, okay.
The saving grace is now there's an ATM there, and I've heard other people say that people march you to ATMs. So I'm like, oh, at least that didn't happen.
The crazy horror travel stories.
That's why I was living there as a student.
No,
Yeah, never
that's
again.
even worse. I don't like. Anyways, that's another a story for another time. But I'm also not the biggest fan of London, the UK in general. I know my
Yes, it's
British
edgy. I
boyfriend.
call it edgy at
Yeah,
the minute.
yeah. It's like, yeah, there's some really trashy, sketchy part, and then on
Yes.
top of that, it's horrible weather, and I'm like, why?
Yeah. 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 And expensive if you talk to someone like London, right?
Inexpensive. Let's talk about
Yeah.
expensive.
If you want a happy ending to that story, they did get caught actually and got put away.
No way!
Yeah.
I'm so happy.
Do you know why? Because when they jumped on the bus, every bus has cameras. So I think they took their hoods down when they got on the bus. So in terms of identification, oh yeah, it's them two there. Easy. Done.
What? Did you
Yeah.
get your stuff back?
No stuff back. And there's a few people came forward, so there's quite a few of them. But yeah, there you go.
Damn. I'm really sorry that happened to you. I can
Nah,
be
all
really
good.
sympathetic.
Let's move on to something a bit more exciting. Vietnam. So go back to
Yes.
Asia. This is an unusual choice for Southeast Asia, I think. And
Mm-hmm.
because this is the same sort of vibe as Thailand in terms of is it a backpacker place rather than a digital nomad. But there's a few reasons why I think people should give it a go.
Mm.
And I'm just going to talk through the areas. Now, there's an interesting thing in Vietnam where north and south are different. So officially, there is a curfew in the north. So when you get to like Da Nang and up, I think Da Nang's fine. But when you go further up, so Hanoi, etc., technically you're supposed to be not on the street by midnight. I think that's a fair rule. If you're looking for parties, there's lock-ins and you can sort of just about get away with it with maybe ordering a taxi. But I've had someone come on the podcast to talk about this because they live in Hanoi and that is the thing. So one of my episodes with Connor Kelly, he lives in Hanoi at the minute. He has lived there for 2 or 3 years and loves it, but he can talk to that a bit more.
Mm.
And in terms of hubs, I think there's quite a few. So obviously, if you want to be based in the north, based on what I just said, you need to take that into account. But you can be based in somewhere like Hue, and Da Nang is sort of in the middle, or Hanoi. I think they're probably the biggest hubs and the places with the most amenities, best internet, and probably hub if you're looking for some other backpackers or people who work in that sort of digital nomad, but also teaching English vibe. There's a lot of people who do that there as well.
Mm.
And then to the south, a bit more liberal, so you can find the parties there. You're out all night, and that's places like obviously Saigon, Da Nang, Hoi An. It's a bit of a smaller hub, a bit more touristy. Even Dalat in the mountains is a bit of an interesting choice by the lake. So lots of hubs, and I think you mentioned before about internet, 10 out of 10.
Mm.
Internet everywhere in Vietnam, never a problem. And don't forget, half their population are below 30 or 35. So it's got a youthful vibe there in terms of hostels, but also technology, feelings about business or staying in hostels or setting up communities is a big aspect of that because the population is so young. So I think a nice vibe to be in. Some working spaces coming up, maybe not too many. So you got to find, maybe do a bit of research into really those hubs if they've got any co-living or co-working spaces. Not sure. Never gone there to look for it. Security felt super safe, but I've seen a few sketchy things.
Interesting.
Yeah, I stayed in Ho Chi Minh City or Saigon, however you want to call it. And outside the hostel, there was just a group of backpackers just ready to come in about midnight, probably 1 a.m. And I just saw this motorbike drive up, nick the handbag and drive off in an instant. So those sort of things can happen. Maybe more in the south, if I'm being honest there. So if you're a woman, I think you need to probably be a bit more careful than a guy because they tend to happen more often to girls and women. So I'm not sure, quotation marks, easier targets. I'm not sure, but just beware. But in terms of the general population, very safe, and the Vietnamese are super kind and super helpful. So I think on the whole, just to have your wits about you as well. And the food is super cheap. I mean, some of the best in the world, but cheap. We're talking like 50 cents, dollar, $2 max on the street. And they have that classic outdoor sitting areas where you sit on these little chairs and you get your bowl of soup or whatever you have. I don't know, spring rolls, just dip them in. Super cheap, great vibe, and very much outdoor culture. And the cost of living tied to that, I think hostels are super cheap. I think even the expensive hostels are not that expensive. And day to day, I can't see being too much money being wasted on anything, really. I think if you're going to look to maybe drive around places, that's quite hardcore. If you're looking to maybe be a bit more mobile on a moped, you can buy one for $200-$300, super cheap. But the roads are crazy. So I'm like, I don't know how brave people are to try that out. I've done it once and I was scared shitless. So
I remember taking the bus a lot in Vietnam.
buses are great. Yeah,
Yeah.
buses are great.
And it wasn't like that complicated. Like it was
No.
easy to get around.
Yeah, so buses are great. But if you want to be like dotting about the city on your own, I guess that's something you might want to consider. There was a few places I didn't like. I didn't like Nha Trang. I don't know if you've been to Nha Trang. That's it's in the middle of the country, but it's more of a sort of a holiday destination, vacation destination, lots of resorts, Russian heavy population because they have direct flights there. So different vibe. And we got stuck there during Chinese New Year. So that was an interesting situation. I think 4 of us cramped into a room because everything was booked. So if you need to be aware of the Chinese New Year, just be somewhere where you've got somewhere booked in advance because if you get stuck, you're going to get stuck.
You have a lot of very interesting travel stories. I love it.
And Ha Long Bay is super touristy. So it's not a hub, but just be aware that if you're going to go travel there or see it, it's worth it because it's amazing. But
it's so beautiful.
I don't know how you plan that outside of the tourist season and not be in the rain. Yeah, I saw a difference in 5 years, 2013 to 2018, and that's huge. I'm not sure what it's like now, but I saw a clip of there with my friends going there, looked heaving with tourists.
God, it's just getting worse and worse.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I think it's crazy. And to finish on Vietnam, the one story I'd finish on is I was on was it the second time? Yeah, the second time, 2018. We're on this bus to Ha Long Bay, and there's a group of Americans in front. So if you're American, listen, and you have an idea what Vietnam's like, and you're not sure, this might just quash those thoughts. 3 of them, probably like early 20s, clearly the first time they've been in Asia. They're at the front, and they're commentating on what they see, and they couldn't believe that the Vietnamese lived in houses, and they had paved roads.
What?
So I know some people generally think Vietnam was like the war, right? Back in the 60s and 70s, where it's all nothing going on. But honestly, Vietnam is so modern that these guys are genuine. They're not taking the piss. They're genuine like, wow, like they've got like shops over there. There's cafes, get coffee, paved roads. This is like home. I'm like, I couldn't believe that they thought otherwise. But hey, it's a learning experience. They know.
Not Cambodia, guy.
Yeah. So that's the story I have to finish on Vietnam if you're thinking, oh, what was it like? But super modern, great internet, up and coming in terms of maybe being a base for digital nomads, and still got that divide from north and south and different vibes in those places. But what a place.
Yeah, I'd agree. I feel like Vietnam is up and coming. It's still kind of like one of these gems. I think if you're like the pioneer digital nomad and you're still trying to chase like the places that have a little bit of everything and that are comfortable but still affordable, you would go to Vietnam, right? Like you wouldn't be like, oh, I'm gonna go to Bali because like who hasn't like been there, done that? Everyone's in. So you would want to go to Vietnam. I 100% agree. I feel like it's even less than Thailand, obviously. So it's the underdog destination.
I think so. And if I was to travel there again, I was speaking to my friend here, actually. She's Vietnamese. But I think she's born here, but Vietnamese parents. And I said to her, Vietnam's a strange place, right? Because as a backpacker or traveler, you know the hubs. Ha Long Bay, Hanoi, Da Nang, Hue, Dalat, Ho Chi Minh. I even went to Phu Quoc when they first built the airport over 10 years ago. That's now very busy with tourists. But I was like, but there's loads of other places in between these places. So my next trip to Vietnam, I said to her, what do you think? She goes, I like it, but I know why you're doing it, because she goes to places that are not on the backpacker trail. So she says, when you go to Ho Chi Minh, of course, that's a big city. Backpackers are there. But just to the south of that, 2 hour drive, there's this place. I don't know what it's called, like Vu Nay,
Mm,
from Vu Way, something like that. She said, this is where the locals go on holiday away from the backpackers and tourists. I'm like,
yeah.
so I think there's like an alternate trip there to go and check out all the other places in between. And that'd be pretty cool content, I think.
I think it would be amazing content. I think it would be an amazing trip. I don't know how comfortable you'd be there as a nomad for like 2 months, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. Unsure. But hey, it's worth a go, isn't it?
Yeah, but like also I think it's fun to travel just to travel, right? This is one of the things that I miss kind of as a digital nomad. I like to be able to afford this lifestyle. This is just a little parenthesis, but
Hmm.
like to be able to afford this lifestyle, I constantly have to work, which means that I always look like I'm on the road and my lifestyle looks like so glamorous. But the truth is like I genuinely only have like my Saturday and my Saturday and my Sunday to
Hmm.
explore. Like it's the same as when I'm home versus someone who like travels at like works at home, does all their stuff, and then I don't know, takes 1 month or 2 months off and really
Mm.
goes and like disconnects and explore and like can really go deep into like different places without caring about the comforts. Like exactly like what you said, like I want to go like 2 hours away from the hub, from the really busy place to explore that, where like it doesn't matter if the internet is not great. It doesn't matter if there's not like a co-working coffee shop, because like who cares? Like you're just
Yeah,
there
yeah,
for a
yeah.
couple of days. If you're not comfortable, you can move out. It's not like you're like, well, I have to work, so I can only travel on Friday or Saturday or Sunday or this or that. So I'm still looking for that perfect balance, you know? Like everyone still seems to glamorize the digital nomad lifestyle, but the truth is like we always look on vacation, but we're never actually on vacation. And there's a part of me that's jealous of the traveler that can actually travel.
God, it's interesting you brought this up. I'm going to counteract that by saying I totally agree, by the way.
Mm,
But I went away for a year last year with no work involved. And let me tell you, it sounds glamorous and it's amazing. We went to 20 odd countries. We
mm,
totally disconnected, but all the money went, no income, and that is stressful.
okay.
So I
Yeah.
totally agree with that balance. And this is where the phase I'm in now, where I got my year travels itch out of my way because I thought, oh, how cool would we go for a year? Amazing, but ran out of money. But totally disconnected for pretty much a year to the day. But now I'm like, oh, in the future, it can't be like that anymore. Going into my mid-30s, it has to be a mix.
I agree.
But I don't know what that mix is. I don't know whether that's somehow picking up jobs to do 1 to 3 months at a time, then had a month off. I don't know. I don't know how hard that is. I don't know if it's easy or what I'd be
Well,
doing.
looking for your next as a contractor and as a self-employed, I can tell you that like looking for your next job is a full-time job. It's
Got it.
hard. So like
Yeah.
if you're on the road and you're like disconnected for like a month, like when you come back, it might take you a couple of days to find your next contract, but it also might take you a month to find your next gig. And then you're like, oh, now I have to start all over again. So yeah, that balance is really, really hard. There's pros and cons to every single lifestyle. I totally agree with you. I don't have to worry about money. I can be like, I'm going to Mexico for 3 months and like money's going to come in. It's totally fine. Because I have like this one contract, right? That's like recurrent. It's going to pay me this month, next month, the month after that,
Mm.
every month. So yeah, I mean, once I figure out the Big Mac secret sauce, I will let everyone know. But now I'm doing the digital nomad. I'm super grateful, but I'm kind of missing having full periods of times where I can just travel.
Yeah, I think you need that as well.
Yeah.
And the problem with this situation is if you're based in Canada, for example, well, my backup fund's going to last 2 weeks. Well, not 2 weeks, not literally, but like
No,
it's
but
not
I know
it's not going to
exactly
last
what you
long.
mean. Yeah,
But
it
if you're
doesn't.
based in Asia, you've got a bit of or somewhere else or these
Yeah, but
places
then
we're
your
talking
plane
about.
ticket is gonna eat up half of shore.
Yeah, but you've got something to play with. I think
Yeah, I agree.
seem to work out. That's the idea of this episode, right? To try and get these ideas and these places out.
Yes, for sure. So I'm gonna take you guys to another underdog destination where your money will go far, and that is Guatemala. So Guatemala is such an interesting destination. Again, this was not a destination that was planned for me at all, wasn't on my bucket list. This was actually my boyfriend that was like, we need to go climb Acatenango.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of Acatenango.
It's on
It's
my
a
list. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It's a 4,600 meters, if I'm not mistaken. I don't quote me on that, but it's a multi-day hike to volcano. It's amazing. My boyfriend's a hiker. He was like, we need to go. So we decided let's go spend a month in Guatemala. We did Antigua. We did a couple of places around like Lake Atitlan, and we did El Paradon. So let me just quickly dive into each destination.
Mm.
Antigua, I think, would be the hub, like the renowned nomad hub. Easy to understand why. Good internet, a couple of good co-working spaces and co-working cafes, mixed lifestyle, very laid back, like it's not your party scene at all, but you can find an okay party if you wanted to. But yeah, very laid back, lots of activities, not like crazy, not like Colombia or Medellin or anything like that, but there's still like wide choices, a lot of things to do, cute little markets, good internet, good people, just very cute, very safe, awesome. Lake Atitlan, definitely more yogi, spiritual community. Like, this is not the nomads. These are the people that are doing spiritual retreats and that are like questioning everything about life. And they go to Guatemala to like find their souls, and lots of soul digging, lots of that. So if you're going there as a nomad, internet, very bad. Unless you're like into the yogi thing, you must not make friends. I don't know. I wouldn't recommend for nomads. And then El Paradon, hard no. Yeah, this is a surf town. We thought we were gonna find a gem. We thought we were gonna hit hard with this one. Oh my God, like, no. Like, one cafe, internet never works. Gentrification, horrible. Like, our beautiful Airbnb was next to a trash house. And I don't mean that in like any mean way. It was literally a house made of trash. Like, it was made
All
of
right.
plastic bags
Yeah.
and trash. And there was kids and a whole entire family there, and we felt horrible, and we were just like hard no. But if you're going to Antigua, I am gonna say this is a really nice underdog adventure destination. Really surprised by how many adventures you get to do in Guatemala. So if you're into like the hiking and just the nature, being in nature, you're gonna love it. I mean, it's not like your vegan, healthy, blah 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 paradise like Costa Rica. Grocery stores horrendous. If you're trying to like save on cooking your meals and this and that, not gonna happen. But yeah, I feel like it's kind of like Vietnam. It's an upcoming destination.
Mhm.
I see the potential. I really liked Guatemala. Also, safety wise, like chef kiss. Oh my God.
Really? Oh, wow.
My God.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally felt totally safe. I really, really enjoyed Guatemala. If I'm gonna give a rating, I think I said lifestyle 8 out of 10. Internet was surprisingly good. Very outdoorsy destination, very fun, but don't go there to party. Making friends, I gave it 7 out of 10s. We did not make friends, but we didn't try. So I think you can easily make friends. Security, 9 out of 10, except El Paradon. That was like, I don't know, like a 5. And food, no grocery stores, but great restaurant, 7 out of 10. Cost of living, honestly, 9 out of 10. Like, it's kind of like what you're saying in Vietnam. Like, if you're trying to save on money, I think Guatemala is a really cool place to be.
Well, this is interesting because I've got some questions because I'm
Okay,
actually
go.
going to El Salvador and Guatemala and Mexico in November for a month.
Yay.
And I'm overlanding from San Salvador to Mexico City. via Guatemala, right? And Guatemala is on my list because obviously it's been talked about a lot. It's quite a well-known destination with travelers, right? So my question is, it's very interesting for safety and security. I was in the US recently and I got picked up by a Uber driver and he's from Colombia, actually, interestingly. And I told him about my trip and he's like, give me the lowdown in each country. And he said, Salvador, no problem. All good. Great
That's
people.
insane. El Salvador is the place I'm the most scared
I
of
know.
going to. Like, are you serious?
And he said, no problem. You'll be fine. He said, what's next? I said, Guatemala. Oh, yeah, you need to be careful there. And he said to me that Guatemala, just have your wits about you. I don't know if it's in general or just have your wits about you. Don't show watches or flash things. Just have a bit of safety about you. And I was like, oh,
Well, we
I thought it'd be
already
the other way
know
around,
we don't
but hey.
trust this person because they're like, go to El Salvador, no problemo. So we already know this person's opinion is, I'm kidding. I think everywhere in Latin America and in London, apparently as well, don't bring your Rolex. Like, why would you do
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? But I never felt that way in Guatemala. And I completely relate with what you're saying because when I read the government's warning about
Mm,
Guatemala, it was like the lowest destination.
yeah.
Like, Panama, they were like, fine. Salvador, they were like, go. I was like, no. But Guatemala, they were like,
What's that about?
in the
Is that
yellow.
political?
Yeah, like a lot of political and just like petty crimes. I don't know what. Okay, I'll give you an example. We went for a massage and I always wear this jewelry, okay? It's
Mm-hmm.
not real gold, but it's like jewelry that will never tarnish. Anyways, whatever. It's not worth a fortune, but I love them. We went to get a massage and she was like, "Can you take off your chain?" I did. And after the massage, I was zonked. It was so good. I completely forgot my chain.
Mm.
Completely like just forgot about it, left it there. That's it. The next day I realized, oh my God, like my chain went back. The little lady wasn't there because like she sold me a massage from the street, classic Latin America, like massage, and you're like, yes, me. Um, yeah, it was like another woman, and I'm trying to explain to her like semi-Spanish French, like what happened. She drove me there, and my chain was there in a little bag
No way.
waiting for me. So
Wow.
if that doesn't speak on
Okay.
the people, I don't know what will. If I don't tell you that this isn't gold, it's really hard to know. Like it's quite heavy, feels like gold, honestly. They put it in a little bag and they left it there for me.
Amazing.
That
Well,
was
there
an
you go.
easy win. Easy could have stole that, been like, no, we didn't see your chain, or like, sorry, whatever. It was still there. It was still there waiting for me. So no, I really didn't feel that way. So there's this thing in Colombia, and I think this is really relatable for everywhere in Latin America. This saying, it's called don't go chasing for papaya. Like, don't go looking for trouble. And I
Yeah.
think this is true everywhere in Latin America and even in Asia, everywhere in the world. Like, just
Yeah,
don't be stupid. You'll be fine. Like, don't get in a cab if you're completely like drunk on your own, right? Don't go with your most expensive jewelry and walking alone on the beach. Like you're chasing papaya if you're doing that, right? Don't walk alone at night at 1 a.m. outing in the streets. Like, yes, people are gonna come and look at you and try to steal from you. But like that could also happen in London. That could also happen in Montreal. That could also happen everywhere. So I think the media is really harsh with Colombia. I felt really safe. I would even go as far as I would go by myself in Antigua, like solo as a female. I would go there by myself.
wow. I guess what I'm sort of worried about, mostly actually is a bit strange, is because I'm trying to do content, right?
Hmm.
A lot of the time I'm going to have my phone out and or camera. So it's going to be obvious, right? I'm sometimes walking about.
100% fine. I did the
Okay.
bunch of
Wow.
content, no issues. Felt a lot scarier in Colombia pointing my camera than
Okay.
in Guatemala.
Great to hear.
Honestly, and I did some content like at night as well. Never felt weird at all.
Love it. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Let's see what El Salvador brings up then. Okay.
Yes, I cannot wait to hear when you come back from
Yeah.
Salvador.
I've got a free walking tour and I've got a guest coming on to the podcast who's local. So he's agreed to come on, interestingly.
Very
That'd be
interesting.
interesting. My last question on Guatemala before I go to my last destination. Did
Yes.
you go to Guatemala City or is that not worth spending any time in?
Yeah. So wait, I think we landed in
Mm,
Guatemala City.
that's where the
This is
airport is, right?
where, uh,
That's where the airport is. Yeah.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I was really surprised. So everywhere around the airport, I'm gonna give you a recommendation.
hmm
Book a hotel there your first night.
I'm not arriving at the airport. I'll be going overland. But my biggest question is it worth staying in
Yes.
Guatemala City to check it out?
Yes, but only near the airport. It reminded me of Toronto so much. We could not believe it. First of all, pristine, clean.
Okay.
Everywhere else in Guatemala, very dirty.
Yeah.
Sorry, but like very, very, very dirty. The dirtiest city in Latin America that I visited. Like the sides of the roads, even on the countryside, horrendous. Like, whoa. Except near the airport, Guatemala City, it was like so clean, so modern, so cool, so vibrant. Honestly, if I could go back again, I would spend like 2 days there for sure.
So is the airport near the city centre?
But this is where like I'm not sure. I'm so bad with my geography.
Because a lot of blogs you read say, oh, just bypass Guatemala City. I'm like, oh.
No, okay, yeah. So the airport, where's the airport? I can see this is where we landed. I would recommend spending 1 or 2 days there. But again, only near the airport.
Okay.
Everything around, yeah, so the airport is right in the middle.
Okay.
Zona
Interesting.
like Zona 12, I think. No, Zona 13. Okay. Stay in Zona 13. That is my recommendation. Everything else around, you're in a classic Latin America like town, ghetto. But sorry, true. But like, I don't know. Even in Costa Rica, like San Jose, are you kidding me? Ghetto. Don't stay there. You don't want to be there. It's ghetto AF. But around the airport, Guatemala, very nice.
Cool. Okay. I'm going to go there then. Yeah. And then get my bus to Antigua. Okay.
Yes.
My
Okay, let's
last
hear your last one.
destination is a rogue entry, and I'm not sure how people are going to react to this one based on all the other places you can go to in South America. And I've picked Bolivia.
I was very surprised when I saw that destination as your
So
pick.
hear me out.
Okay,
The cheapest place in South America, or one of, straight
for
off
a
the bat.
reason.
And if you're looking to do a mix of work and activities, the activities are incredible. So you can do Death Road, Salt Mine Tour in Potosi, Salt Flat Tour to the Western Uyuni, Cochabamba for the Amazon rainforest, and Sucre if you want that sort of traditional town of colonial stuff and the capital. And La Paz is mental. All those options are available for an experience that is going to be pretty life-changing as it was for me. But there's a few things that you have to consider for Bolivia. One, transport. It's going to be buses and it's going to be up and down elevation. So you need to get comfortable with that. And they're not the best. Two, my experience, the internet was not great.
Not
Apart from a few hubs that I found, I was like, oh wow, and that's probably why I've added it in.
Mm.
And three, the locals are pretty cool. They're very traditional, and I think they're not sometimes your brash South Americans. I think they're very reserved, maybe because of the political climate. I'm not sure. They do protest a lot though about certain things, but I found the locals quite intriguing. Now, for working spaces, I think I was drawn in by Sucre. I don't know if you've been to Bolivia and been to
No.
Sucre. So La Paz has got the classic South American hostels like Low Key. There's another one there, the party hostels, right? Amazing internet, amazing facilities, but they are party based. But Sucre was the only place that I found, apart from Potosi, but I'll come to Potosi in a minute, where it was like, oh wow, this is like a chilled hostel. You got backpackers and nomads living and working there. People on laptops. You've got like, I met some Chilean doctors staying there doing some work. I'm like, wow, this is a bit rogue. And that was in Sucre, and it's a bit of a chill place. It's the government place. There's markets, very quiet, not much going on in terms of extravagance, but what a place to be based. White walls everywhere. The church bells ring on the Sunday. It really is idyllic. And there's a few hostels there that are hubs for backpackers. And I'm wondering, are they potential hubs to stay if you're looking to work? So
Would you work there? Would you stay for like,
I
let's call it a month? Because I think under a month, like you're not really settled. Would you stay there for a month?
I was in Bolivia for nearly a month, so I definitely could stay there for a month, but only in certain places. I don't think I can stay in La Paz for a month. I think that's out. It's too crazy. It's too mental. And it's,
What do you mean by too crazy?
first of all, it's elevation, and then there's hills. So you're going up and down. Taxi drivers are insane. It's a bit unsafe. And there's a couple of rogue activities that I took in that I don't really want to share, but they're just it's just a bit of a rogue. There's a lot of things that can happen in La Paz.
We want to know.
I can direct you to an episode if you want to
The
hear.
viewers and listeners, they're like, wait, I've listened this far and you're not going to tell me? There's no way.
I'm gonna go a bit cryptic, but if you want to find out what I'm talking about, you can put in Google right now. Anyone who's listening or watching, Route 36, La Paz, and I think that will tell you all that you need to know. And then,
Okay.
I just don't think it's a great hub. To the west, it's more touristy because you're doing the salt flats. That's ruled out. And then Potosi, where I stayed for a while, is the highest city in the world, I think, or one of the two for elevation, and it's impossible because you can't breathe. I couldn't sleep that well because the elevation is like 4,000 meters where it is, right? It's just huge. So that's ruled out. And then there's places in the east towards the Amazon rainforest with a lower elevation. And I think probably the hub that I've never checked out, but I think would be good for digital nomads is Santa Cruz.
I've heard a lot of.
A
Mm.
lot of business there. I think it's got great internet facilities, just a way different vibe to La Paz. I think that is a place where I'd like to check out and see where I could stay for a month. But other places I've been to, Sucre is the place, but I think Santa Cruz would be pretty cool to go and check out. I had someone come on the podcast and talk about that place extensively, and they loved it. Security, mixed, never really had any problems, but taxi drivers can be a bit of a menace. I mean, you put any cash on you just like, I don't know, somewhere else in South America if you need to get out of a hole. And walking at night, apart from Sucre, yeah, I'm not sure. I don't feel totally comfortable. And I'm a white male, so take that as you will. And the locals can protest quite vigorously. So when I was there, there's protests about petrol and gas, and roads were closed. And if you get stuck on a road or you can't go anywhere, I don't know what other alternatives there is. And I'm not sure I want to fly internal either. I don't think they've got the best safety record. Bolivia food, pretty average. I don't recall tasting anything that was decent in terms of local food.
Well, can you give us examples of the local food? I'm just curious.
Actually, the only thing that was good was the soups. Bolivian soups are pretty good. They're the good things I had, especially on my treks as well. But very stodgy, like crap meat, potatoes. Just, I don't know what Bolivian cuisine is. I can't tell you.
Okay. Yeah.
Empanadas okay, I think, but the soups were the thing that I ate the most because I trusted them to be good. But that's not a hearty meal if you're looking for that.
The highlight of this trip was the soup.
Now I've got some crazy stories from this trip, but that's on some of my podcasts if you want to check that out.
Yep.
And cost of living, I think it'd be pretty cool. I think if you're looking to save some money, I think that's a good place to be based. Considering the other options in South America, I think that'd be a nice budget-friendly destination, especially if you're traveling on to the Amazon. I think that's the cheapest place to do it. Yeah, have you got any questions about Bolivia?
Feel like, yeah, so there's a lot of pros and cons, right? There's the cost of living, which would be amazing. There's the sightseeing that's like out of this world.
Yeah.
But then there's the safety, there's the food. Again,
Internet, not
the
sure.
internet. So this is kind of, again, where I'm going to ask this question. This makes me feel, let me know what you think, but it makes me feel like Peru.
Okay. Yeah.
Beautiful, stunning destination as a traveler.
Yeah.
Do I want to be there as a digital nomad? it's I feel like it's one of these places where I would take a month off and like exactly kind of like you go see all the like
Mm.
landmarks and experience it. But do I want to live and work there for a month or two? From what you're saying, you haven't sold me on it though.
Fair. I haven't sold myself.
Yeah. So I'm really curious as to what the listeners, the viewers also think of Bolivia, but I would class this as amazing travel destination. Maybe not on my list as a digital nomad, but I'm curious simply as to why you picked it for the draw. Is it just because you wanted to kind of like get people's opinion on it? Like,
Yeah, I think it's three things. I think number one, I'd love people's opinion on it. And it's been a while since I've been, so I kind of want to know if it's improved since the last time I went to Bolivia. Number two, I had a deep dive on Bolivia on one of my episodes, and it just probably drew me in a little bit.
mm,
And the Santa Cruz city, where it's like very cosmopolitan, I was like, oh, maybe that could be a hub. So it kind of
mm,
intrigued me. And alongside my Sucre experience, where it was like, imagine the craziness of some of the countries you've been to. I don't know, Vietnam could be like this. It's crazy all the time. Go, 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 go. And then the one place in Vietnam was like, oh, Dalat, oh, it's by the lake. It's chill.
mm.
Sucre is that for me in Bolivia. It's just like, oh, wow. Because then all the activities I've done as well, like I just felt like I had to chill
Yeah.
out, and that was the perfect place. And I think three, I'm always driven by cost. So maybe I've gone with the cost aspect, because what's the worst that can happen if you're there and you've got to leave? Well, just leave. And I
Mm.
think if you have to stick it out, it's still going to be cheap. Imagine you're kind of stuck somewhere and it's a bit more expensive, but you can't leave as quickly. You're stuck for money, or it's going to cost you more. It's a bit annoying, isn't it? So maybe that drew me in. Interesting you mentioned Peru. Cusco, I think I could live there for a month.
Mm.
I love that place. I don't know what you think about it, but I loved it.
I haven't been specifically to Cusco. Cusco. That sounds like the grocery store. How I'm saying.
Yeah.
But anyways, I haven't been there specifically. I just know that I just know that Peru is one of these destinations that's a sightseeing destination for me and not a digital nomad destination for me.
Okay, fair
When I'm
enough.
traveling as a digital nomad, but this is where people can have their judgments on this, but I definitely class myself as a champagne nomad. Like I can say this myself. I value comfort over cost because I'm away from home. I'm not in my bed. I don't have all the luxuries that I have at home. It's already like so uncomfortable living out of a suitcase, changing destinations every like 2 or 3 weeks, depending on how much you want to see and your budget, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, like away from, all of your repère. I don't even know what's that word in English. Like, I don't know. Here, I know where everything is. Like, I know where to go to find whatever it is I need, right? When you're at a new place, you have to rediscover like everything. Like, where's the superstore? Where do I
Hmm.
buy my hair products? Where do I get my nails done? Where do I get wax? Like, I don't know. It's just so much. There's so much to think about. The last thing I want is to be uncomfortable.
Got it. I guess because
So
you got to work, right? I get it.
I gotta work. Like I gotta get up every morning and like do my job and my job not to like notice that I'm away, right? Like I do have this work from anywhere job. It's totally fine, but I can't also like not be online for four
Sure,
days
sure,
because my
sure.
internet didn't work and like whatever, you know?
Mm.
So yeah, I value comfort. And I think that's why I don't mind spending a bit more. Like cost to me is again, this is one of the pros of being a digital nomad. I'm
Mm.
working, I have the money. So I'm just like, yeah, I'd rather have a villa and a pool and be really comfortable. And I'll keep Bolivia for like when I have this 1 month off, which might never happen, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right. The comfort level of Bolivia, I wouldn't even say it's that comfortable,
Mm.
apart from Sucre, because I had a very comfortable time there. Great bed, and I don't know why I remember that so well. But maybe because the other parts weren't that comfortable, maybe.
Even if you pay, even if you're like, I'm willing to pay, can you say, because there's
Mm.
destinations where like your money will only take you that far. It doesn't matter how much money
Yeah,
you
good
have.
shout.
Is it one of these or Like if you are like, I am willing to spend, then you will have like luxury.
That's a great question. I think that's a question for the audience because I've not been in a very long time. So I'm keen to
Mm,
see what it's like now, for sure.
mm,
Yeah,
mm.
there's our
Well,
destinations. For maybe a fun way to end it, right? The
yeah, go ahead.
conversation. What about if we ask each other, what are three cities or hubs that you're looking to test out that you've not been to before, where maybe you've heard great things, but you want to go and see it for yourself? So, like, is there three places in your mind worldwide, could be anywhere, where you're like, do you know what? I need to go and be a digital nomad there and just see and feel the place based on what you've heard or read. Don't know what you think
That's an
about
amazing question. I love it. My mind is like,
that.
okay. So the thing is that all the destinations that are coming up to my mind are not hubs. This is gonna sound really harsh, but I am a social butterfly and I love people, and I also don't like people. Like I don't like big like touristy crowds and like surrounded with people. I'm 100% like laid back yogi surfer girl on a beach that has like 4 or 5 friends, but like you know what I mean? Like I'm not big on like the I don't know, the big touristy thing. So, and I always base my travels based on activities. So, based on that, winter in Japan, are you kidding me? I have to go.
So, is this as a traveler or as a digital nomad?
I would do it as a digital
Yep.
nomad.
Okay.
I really don't know how that would work because I've lived 2 years in Whistler, and when there was a powder day, I was literally like, I am not coming to work. Like, bye. I love snowboarding, and I heard that, yeah, like Japan is amazing. I don't know how diligent I would be as a digital nomad, but I think Japan is one of these destinations. Like, first of all, I'm convinced I was Japanese in another life. Like that is all I will eat for the rest of my life is Japanese food. I am obsessed. I love their food. I love their culture. So Japan, definitely one of them. Cape Town is a destination where I've been. I've worked there as a model and I've lived there for 5 months. So I really enjoyed it. I'd love to see how it's changed and evolved. And I think that this is a really like upcoming nomad hub. And then heard of this new nomadic village in Brazil, Pipa, that is like another upcoming hub. And this is where, again, this is where like I want to make friends and I like people, but I don't want to go in like Canggu. Do you get me? Where like everyone's there. So this upcoming like place in Brazil is really intriguing. And I think it would be such a cool base to explore other destinations in Brazil. Like Brazil is on my bucket list. Like I
Mm.
think it looks amazing. So I'm gonna go with that. I'm curious to hear about yours.
Mm. Yeah, I'm gonna label mine from a digital nomad perspective based on what I think it could be like, but I've not been there, so this is like what I've heard on the podcast, whatever. Number one, I'm actually going to this place in November, and that's Oaxaca in Mexico. So I think it's a hub, and I think it's quite well known to be one.
You said November. Are you going for Dias de la Muerto?
No, it's actually the first week of December. So
Because I'm gonna be there in November, the first week of November. I was like, oh my god, we can meet.
no, I'll be there probably like the 1st of December, something like that.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
sorry. So that's one hub because I think I read so many good things about it: the food, the lifestyle, the hubs, whatever. I think it looks pretty cool.
Mm.
Number two, avoided this whole region on my list because I wasn't sure what you'd think about it, but it's somewhere in Spain. Now, where? Well, it's not going to be the trashy places that UK people go to, like Benidorm or Costa del Sol. It's not going to be Barcelona because they hate tourists at the minute, and it's not going to be Madrid because I think it's going to be too hot. So it's somewhere probably north, maybe the Basque region, Galicia to the northwest, or in between down the south, somewhere like not in these places, but around like Sevilla, Malaga, or Valencia, somewhere in between there. Because I think all year round, amazing weather, but I think in the winter it'd be pretty cool. So I think that's somewhere down there is on my list in
Mm.
Spain. And I think it's pretty cheap in Spain. Anyway,
Yeah.
another conversation. And number 3, I did have Antigua in Guatemala on my list. Again, I'm going there in November. I heard it's like a smaller Oaxaca, if you like that sort of vibe. So I'm keen to see what it's like. And based on what you've said, I'm pretty excited to go. So they're probably my 3 places I've not been to that I'm thinking are hubs.
Oh my God, this is so exciting. So we'll have to catch up after our travels.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what we think of these new hubs. I'm going to be doing a Euro Africa tour. So I'm
Okay.
sure I'm going to discover a lot of new hubs. And you're going to travel for quite a bit as well, right?
A month in November.
A month. Okay, good. Yeah. So, but you're doing 3 destinations, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
You're doing.
So the premise is overland, no flying, San Salvador to Mexico City. I've got a month. Can I get there using public transport and or hitchhiking?
I remember you said that to me, and I'm like, why would you do this to yourself?
Because if you can't get a bus, what other choice have you got?
I think that will make a lot of very interesting travel stories that I cannot wait to listen to podcast. But thank you so much again for having me
No, thank you.
and having this discussion about nomadic hubs. I hope this was useful. I quite learned a lot. I really enjoyed this conversation with you. And yeah, I'll be listening to your podcast for when you come back from not taking a plane between
Well,
all.
I'm flying in and out. I guess that's
Yeah, I know what you mean, but
But
yeah.
hopefully, there's a caveat to it. I think I'm going to do a scenic flight over the Blue Hole in Belize. That's on my list
Wow. Okay. Okay.
because I can't do water, so I'm scared of deep water, right? So I have to fly. I like heights, but not water, so I can do paragliding or hang gliding or flying. So I think I'll do that in Belize as a offshoot. But the distance from that side of the Guatemala to go to east and then back west is huge. So I'm not sure how it's going to go. But yeah, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate the chat. It's been super fun. Lots of positivity, lots of honest reviews, and lots of mystery in there with some of the destinations. That's probably what I've chosen. And let's see what people think, and any feedback would be great. And then love to hear people's experiences of these places if they try it out.
Yeah. Let us know, guys. And thank you so much for listening.
Okay, see ya.